This time I speak with two guys from YugabyteDB, Michael Blackburn and Taylor Mull, and we will talk about, well, databases? Maybe. Let's check it out.
Hello again. So here I am with microphone. Yes, it's here. So I almost forgot about Mike. I am here with Taylor and Michael from YugabyteDB. Probably you never heard about them, or well, if you heard, let me know in the comment, because this is something really interesting. We had a talk yesterday. We discussed what you do, and I found that it is really impressive. Something what we really need on the market, kind of niche. You are trying to
trying to pull all that technology.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you would like to tell what really Yugabyte is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having us. I really appreciate taking the time with us. So YugabyteDB, we are a distributed Postgres system. And now what that really means at the end of the day is that we take Postgres and we kind of go beyond the limits of what it has now. And when I talk about limits, there's kind of three main things I like to talk about. So first is kind of the high availability. So Postgres, again, fantastic database, small, medium, large workloads. It does everything really great. It's fantastic in the community. But at some point it may run into a problem with HA, which is, if it fails, what do you do? Right now, the way it goes about doing that is with an active and a standby. And when it fails, you may be down 30 seconds, 2 minutes, depending on the technology.
2 days.
Yeah, exactly. Depending on how it goes. I try not to poke too much at them, but yes, we've seen some pretty bad problems where they go down for a long period of time. And that can be a huge, massive cost to your business. So for us, it's about 3 seconds. So we can be down for we won't be down for longer than 3 seconds when we have a failure with one of our nodes. So, people talk about the CAP theorem, if everyone's familiar with that. It's, you have the idea of being consistent. You have the data where, making sure the data is always available, and you have the data that can never be, gone. It can't disappear. For us, we're kind of on the CP side. So, we're always consistent and the data can't be lost. But the availability is where we kind of have, that 3 seconds. So you can't beat the triangle. The triangle is where it's at. So that's kind of where we sit. So that's kind of one area where, people come to us for. A lot of tier 1 applications, where it's like E91 data, lives are online, or fintech companies that's like, hey, if I'm down for 30 seconds, there goes $1 million, right? That's kind of where we sit. The other area that we sit and why people come to us is scale. And scale, I talk about it in kind of two different ways. One is the obvious one, scale. I have a lot of transactions coming in. Mm-hmm. So Postgres, you can scale that thing up pretty well, but only to a certain point, especially when you talk about write scale. So at some point, you either have to say, hey, I'm going to manually shard up my database, which means manually sharding up the application. Now, things like schema changes and making application changes, it's just not a fun time. And it may happen once. It could happen again. It's a good problem to have to continually manually sharding, but it's a pain. So for us, we automatically do that for you. Once you move to us, you never have to worry about sharding again. We automatically shard the data infinitely. As the data grows, we do it table by table. So as one table grows, we'll shard it up more. If the table stays pretty small, we won't shard it because there's no need to. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the other area where people come to us for from a scale perspective. The other scale that I like to talk about is multi-region scale. I think that's something that every single company can deal with. The scale that I was just talking about with transactions, that may not be everybody. You're talking large enterprises, something that's exploding. That's not as common as just the multi-region problem, which is, all right, now I want to go global. The data set may be small, may be large, but how do I get people to have the data and also adhere to things like GDPR compliances, and also make sure that the data and fetching it is not taking super long time for my customers? Yeah. So what we do is we have a couple different ways of doing it. I won't go into each and every one of them. I'd happy to talk about it. You can definitely talk to me. I could talk for days about it. But, we have two different options for that. One is just kind of like having one cluster spanning multiple regions. We tend to see that, when we're talking about, say, just the continental US, something just in Europe, something a little bit smaller and closer together. Mm-hmm. You have very high consistency, a little higher latencies, because now you got to send the data to multiple locations and fetch it. It can be a little painful. But again, you have that high consistency, and it's always, and the data, if a node goes down, you're only talking 3 seconds. The other way we do it is where you can actually pin data to certain locations. So this is an area that we're seeing a lot of interest. It's where, hey, I have a user in the US. I want the data to only stay in the US because I have to adhere to some sort of compliance. Based on a value and kind of the table, we'll just pin the data directly to that. So you have maybe US, maybe UK, maybe APJ. Based on that value, we pin it. So that's kind of how we do that and how we can adhere to the GDPR, and also how some companies use us in order to continue having this multi-region cluster without having to run a 5, 6, 12 different PG instances. If you talk to people in the gaming industry, especially with the sports betting and things like that, they all have 50 different laws now with every single state. Do you really want to run 50 different instances? That's kind of the value that we bring, kind of the three major ones. With it being called Postgres, it's distributed Postgres, we are extremely Postgres compatible. What we did is we actually tore out the upper half of the Postgres query layer and put it on top of a RocksDB engine. So if you were to come to us from Postgres, I'll never say anything's a complete lift and shift. There are always changes, but generally the changes, they're not as bad. We have a tool that can actually help you decide this. It's called Voyager. It's completely open sourced. You can kind of take a look at it, have it run against your schema, and it'll give you an idea of what the changes are going to be made.
Mm-hmm. And open source in general is our...
And that's kind of the other big thing that I love about this company, love about our founders, is the open source nature of it. We are 100% open source. So all the things I just talked about, I know it was a lot. All those things you can get with our open source products. You can download it right now and use those features and just start running with it right away.
Mm-hmm. And as we discussed this yesterday, I also had one more useful thing about this approach.
Yeah.
The business continuity and disaster recovery, which is built in already.
Correct.
In the operational model, really, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And this is something what we really need and we really miss many times. This disaster recovery is not something what we think about, and especially not having this operational in different regions.
Yes,
right?
yeah. And so, I talked about how there's a lot of different regions, a lot of different, ways we can deploy it.
Yes.
That first one, when we're talking about DR, where you have, one cluster spanning 3 regions, right? You can lose any one of those regions and still function. And once that region comes back, you'll be able to come right back up, no problem. The data automatically syncs the data up for you. But one of the common patterns that we see, especially people moving from something like Oracle or Postgres, the single node systems, is the idea of the 2 data centers. Now, when you talk about using replication factors, what we use, you can't do 2 data centers. That math doesn't work out. If I lose this one, it has the 2 copies. Now I'm down. If I get lucky, it's only 1.
Yeah.
It might be all right. So one other way that we help specifically with that problem with DR is we have the idea of X cluster replication. And what that is actually 2 separate clusters that are asynchronously sending data across. So that way, if there is a failure, you can automatically flip over to the other side. That's something we really see a lot with financial services, banking. Yeah. That's where they say, hey, I've been running 2 data centers for 40 years. I don't want to have to add another data center in there. So what we'll do is we'll stand up cluster on the East Coast, stand up cluster on the West Coast. We'll send the data across. And usually what happens is one is going to be the primary, and it's going to send data across the other side. No writes or reads coming on the other side usually. But you could actually have that true, active writes coming in on the other side. And, people always ask, well, what happens if I write on one side and a write on the other side? How do I, deal with that conflict? It's last writer wins. So whichever one has the latest timestamp, that will win. With that also, it is eventually consistent. If I write on one side, read on the other side, unfortunately, we can't break physics. We can't have it go quickly. But again, from a pure DR standpoint, that gives you the ability to say, hey, I'm reading from one side. It has a catastrophic failure. I can flip over, and you can still continue running your business.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I definitely would like to try it. So how the ordinary folk can start with?
Yeah, there's a couple different options. Yeah, so first thing I would do is please join us on the community. You can actually reach me. I'm Taylor Mull. You can reach out to me directly on the community Slack. Happy to talk with you. Happy to chat with you. The 2 ways you can get started. One, again, as I mentioned, it's open source. If you want to get started right now, go up. You can start downloading it. You can download it either in Docker. You can do just a Git with a tarball, depending on where you want to send it. Absolutely can do that. But the way I really like people to try it out is we actually have a fully managed product. Uh-huh. And with that fully managed product, you can actually do what we call as a free trial. So just go up, sign up, and do a 2-week free trial. And that way you don't have to worry about the installation. You don't have to worry about spinning up the infrastructure. We'll do it for you. You just bring whatever test workload that you have or any data that you have, start running it, and you'll be able to try it out immediately.
That'll be on our infrastructure.
On our infrastructure, AWS, GCP, Azure, wherever you'd like.
All right, that sounds perfect. So try it. Now, thank you for the deep explanation. Really, it was really interesting to hear about what is behind this. Of course, we didn't go deep into technicalities, but it's not the place. Anyway, How is the KubeCon for you so far?
KubeCon's been great. It's been great energy. A lot of people coming around. Love seeing all of the different booths, all the different technologies that are coming around. It's been fantastic. It's been really great talking to everyone. And the big thing for me is does what we sell resonate with people?
And more importantly, does it resonate with the developer community, which we're finding more and more it does, as opposed to just the classic DBA.
Yeah.
It's how the developers are moving to this new environment, microservices, cloud native, modern applications. The database has to be brought along with that. And what we found in the past is that the database has been left behind. But through our conversations here, I've been really enjoying is that we're now seeing a trend to where bring the database into this whole conversation.
Yeah, that's cool. And we heard many times that DevOps is dead, so we can say DBA is dead, right? So,
But not quite. I don't think it ever will be. But yeah, we're trying to make it easier.
It all needs to be together.
yes, of course.
It's
Okay.
Oh yeah.
A new place for DBAs.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely.
I will stay with touch. Maybe we can do more deep demo one day.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'd be happy to do that.
Absolutely.
Because it looks like really something what is fresh, I would say.
Yeah.
So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have fun.
Great talking with you.
That one is done as well. So see you in the next one.